Call this meeting to order. This is a Livingston Parish Council meeting. Today is July the 25th. It's about 6:40 p.m. Okay, let's all stand for the invocation. Dear God in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day you give us. We thank you for all the many blessings that you bestow upon us in this life, Father. Would you be with this council as they make decisions to better our quality of life for Livingston Parish? Would you be with all first responders and police officers and military, Father, that you protect them as they serve to protect us and keep our freedoms such that we can come up here and do good things for the people that we love in Livingston Parish. As always, Father, we thank you for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross so that people like us have the freedom to choose how our eternity is. Dear God, thank you for everything and forgive us of our sins. Amen. Amen. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, Jeff Ager. Oh, Mr. Bubba Harris, your turn.
My turn. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
Mr. Lovell. Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Greenhouse.
Here.
Mr. R.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Okay, we're going to ask that everybody silence their cell phones so that we don't have interruptions during the meeting tonight. Okay, public input. Anyone wishing to address any agenda items, as that agenda item comes up for discussion, you can simply just raise your hand and we'll call upon you, and then you can come up to the podium and you can state your name and address, and you can talk about the issue that you want to talk about. Okay? Okay. I would like to say we're gonna, agenda item number 7 is presentations, but I would also like to say that if there's any individual, residing in Livingston Parish that is running for public office, that they are invited, you gotta call and you gotta schedule it and get on the agenda, but you're invited to come up here and talk and about, your upcoming election, okay? Even anybody, that's running for office or an elected official, you're welcome to come up here and do that, Okay, good. So at this time, we have Mr. There he is. I couldn't see you. My bad. We have Mr. Brian Abels, candidate for Judge 21st Judicial District, Division D, here tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Council. I appreciate your time and giving me a few minutes tonight. I know all of you, I think, know me. But for those in the audience that don't, my name is Brian Abels. I am a candidate for Judicial District Court Judge, Division D. For those of you that maybe don't know, that was Judge Doug Hughes' seat. He is retired. He has left it as an open seat. So there is no incumbent in that division currently, and I'll be running. I grew up here in Livingston Parish. I grew up on the East End. I now live on the West End. I've been there for 22 years. I work here. I live here now. Basically everything I do is here in Livingston Parish, and I'm proud of it, and I'm very happy to be here still. I've been practicing law for 22 years, most of it in the courtroom, so I know how to run a courtroom. I'm going to run it as efficiently as possible, so we're not wasting taxpayer money, holding up court for maybe a whole day when we can get things done in a few hours, if we can do that. And I'm going to work hard for the people of the 21st Judicial District. The district includes not only Livingston Parish, but also includes Tangipahoa Parish and St. Helena Parish. So it's a big area. As y'all know, time's running short as we approach Election Day, October 12th. So we're out there and we're really working hard. As our next judge, look, I know the law, and as our next judge, I will always seek truth and justice. I'm going to conduct myself with integrity, and I'm going to work really hard and hopefully make the people of Livingston Parish very proud to have me as their judge. So I know y'all are busy. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know you have a lot more things. I have another engagement this evening, unfortunately, that I have to get to, but do y'all have any questions for me? I left some cards up there, some business cards, has all of my contact information, of course, social media, web pages and all that, but it also has my phone number. Feel free to call me or text me at any time. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, agenda item 7B, this is a review and discussion of the 2018 audit. Is there someone here tonight that would like to talk about that?
Yes, sir. My name is John Murray. I'm with the CPA with LaPorte CPAs. We performed the audit for the year ended December 31st, 2018. So I have the big report with you, but I also have just a summarization of it, and we'll go through that. As I go through, if you have any questions, just let me know. The first slide is the scope of our audit. Our audit was the financial statements of the parish council, so it didn't include any of the recreation districts or fire districts or anything like that. Our opinion was an unmodified opinion on the primary government financial statements. So basically, we say that the financial statements were fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. As part of our audit, we also did testing and obtained understanding of internal control. We tested compliance with state laws, and we'll go over a summary of that shortly. The first set of financial statements is the governmental activities of government-wide. So it's two different columns. It's the governmental activities is everything except the utility fund, and the business type activities is just the utility fund. And you can see at December 31st, we had total assets for governmental activities of $171 million, total liabilities and deferred inflows of $71.7 million, and so that gave us a net position at the end of the year of $99.5 million. And see that broken down in unrestricted at 22.7 and then restricted in capital assets. The business type activity had total assets of 6.4 million, liabilities of 2.2, and a net position at the end of the year of 4,161,000. The income statement is on the next slide, begins on the next slide. And again, this is full accrual. So for the governmental activities, we had total revenues of 47,160,000. You can see that was an increase from last year, over 46.7 million. Our business type activities had revenues of 289, which was a little bit less than the previous year. The next section is the expenses, and you can see those broken down by your functional categories. The total expenses for the governmental activities was 45.6 million, which was an increase over the previous year of 41.6 million. And the business type activities was 866,000, which was an increase over the prior year of 697. So that gave you a change in net position or a net income for the year of 1.5 million for the governmental activities and a loss of 576,000 for the business type activities or the utility fund. The next set of financial statements are the fund basis financial statements. In other words, these are what y'all budget off of. And if you look on page 6, this includes all your major funds, and also all your non-major funds are combined into one column there. So the general fund had total fund balance at the end of the year of 21.2 million, and of that, 9.4 is unassigned. You have a non-spendable of 3.4, and then restrictions of 8.4 there. The health unit had 7.3 million of fund balance at the end of the year. The jail sales tax had a deficit of 9.6 million, and the road fund had a positive fund balance of 17 million. And then all your non-major funds totaled had a total fund balance of 11 million. The next slide is the income statement for the fund basis for the funds. And you can see the general fund took in revenues of 10.5 million, had expenditures of 8.7, and had net other financing sources of 6.8 million. And that's a big number there because y'all issued the Go Mesa bonds last year of 8 million. And so that gave you a positive change in fund balance of 8.6 million for the general fund. For the health unit fund, you had 1.4 million in revenues, 1.3 in expenses, and a positive change in fund balance there of 28,000. The jail fund, you had revenues of 4.7 million, expenditures of 4.1 million, and transfers out of 1.9 million. which gave you a loss for the year of $1.3 million for the jail fund. And then the road fund had revenues of $17.5 million, expenses of $10.2, which gave you a positive change in fund balance of $1.6 million. And then those non-majors, all those combined had $12.1 million in revenues, $22 million in expenses, and a positive change in fund balance of $135,000 for the year. The next section is a summary of our schedule, findings and question calls for the year. As I noted, we did do testing of internal control and compliance, and we do have one significant deficiency, an internal control issue that we'll discuss, and one non-compliance that we'll discuss as well. In addition to that, we also audit y'all's compliance with federal awards in accordance with the Uniform Grant Guidance, and we tested 3 major programs this year, and we gave an unmodified opinion on all of those, that y'all did comply with those. The findings are next, and the first one is permits and licenses. And just during our testing, we noted that there were gaps in the sequence of numbers, and we recommend that y'all purchase a software that would improve that counting for that. And that was a previous finding as well. And then there was a finding number, I'm sorry.
Pause just for a second.
Okay.
We did purchase that software. It has been implemented. It took the software writers way longer than we anticipated to write in manually all of our billing codes because we have so many. So because we did not have that software in place for the whole 18 years, they still saw some of that gap in sequencing, but it will be in place for the whole 19 year. So that finding will fall off for the 19 year.
Okay.
Awesome. Then the second finding is 2018-002, which is related to the Louisiana Local Government Budget Act. And this relates to expenditures that exceeded the budgeted amounts by more than 5%. Last year we had this finding and it was 2 funds, but this year there's only 1, which is the jail fund, which had more than 5% variance. And then our recommendation for that is that y'all monitor those costs and amend the budget. And also, as we talked about, the jail fund has a deficit, which, you're not supposed to have in accordance with the budget, so, budget law.
And that's simply,
We waited till the last possible
Yes,
day
sir.
to amend this budget.
but I mean, think about it this way, even if we wait until the first meeting in December, so that gives us December and governmental AP, which is 60 days. So we're looking at 90 days worth of information that we do not know yet. We haven't received 2 months worth of bills, and we still have 1 month worth of activity that I cannot guess on. I mean, it is a guess. I can't accurately project because if we arrest higher than usual number of people, or if they happen to have some serious medical condition, if we have an HIV positive inmate in the facility, you're looking at $15,000 a week in medical costs. So it's sometimes hard to project out of parish housing if we're at capacity and we have a big arrest at the end of the year, or if we get sicker than normal inmates than we have been having all year and at the end of the year, those bills are just astronomical.
Okay, so we waited as late as we could, and
We're
the
doing
only
everything we
fund we
can.
missed was jail.
Yes.
That's
Now,
correct.
You made a comment about the deficit in the jail versus the budget. So you
Well,
said
this is the deficit of the fund, so, you basically, your liabilities exceed your assets. So that's the issue there, which, again, that's an issue that y'all have been dealing with where, the fund is just
well,
not
it's
generating
our
revenue.
responsibility to pay for it. So if we, I know we run it through a fund, but the
You
revenue,
just
even
say
if,
that the Local Government Budget Act and the accounting law says that you're not supposed to budget a loss, a complete deficit in your fund balance. In other funds, you can operate and have a loss in 1 year, but you still have that fund balance to account for that loss, to absorb that loss. In the jail, we don't have that fund balance to absorb that loss because we've been running at a deficit for so long. But we knew that we were gonna do that in projections early on when we came into office, because at the time that the jail was built, nobody projected the need for the corrections facility being so big and the sales tax not growing fast enough to pay for both housing inmates and buildings operating the jail.
so, but there's no way to fix the finding.
Yes, sir, there is. At the time that, and that's the only reason why the legislative auditor is allowing us to let that ride, basically, is because in 2 more years, the debt will be paid off for building the facility, at which time we'll have that $4.7 million a year to put back into that fund balance. And we will no longer operate at the deficit and we will rebuild that fund balance.
Okay.
That was all I had. You have any questions or anything?
I'm sorry, the bond that we took out to jail, we pay off in 2 years.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we gotta accept it.
Do we need to take any action on that?
No, you don't have to.
All right, good. Thanks for coming. Appreciate your presentations. Okay. This time, it was requested by Councilman Gary Frog.
No, let Jim do his deal.
Okay. Agenda item number 8. Mr. Jim Ryan.
Thank you. Mr. Lobel is not here tonight, so if he has any friends on the council, somebody might want to make a motion for him. This is simply a renewal for Fire District Number 9 for their $32 per year parcel fee for 10 years for fire protection services.
I
Told
think
him
he
it was
has
going to
any
be a
friends
mistake.
there, Jim.
I told him it was going to be a mistake.
No, I'll be glad to make the motion. He called me and asked me to support it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. John Wascom. We have a second by Jeff Avery. Is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? No, any from the council? Okay, I call for the vote on this.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good
Thank you,
weekend.
Mr. Jim. We love our fire districts in Livingston Parish. They save our people. Agenda item number 9, this is the adoption of the minutes from the July 11th, 2019 regular meeting of the council. We have a motion by Tracy Girlinghouse, second by Bubba Harris. Is there any discussion from the audience? And from the council? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Agenda item number 10. This is the public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 19-20. I will now open the public hearing. Sandy, can you please read the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Miss Sandy. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and read it.
Yep.
It's gonna be postponed.
It's gonna be postponed, okay?
The engineer called and asked us, and we did not put it in the packet.
All right.
Okay, there. That's the resolution.
So does it need to be read? We're gonna just
I
read
think
it
it's
again?
good to read it and go ahead and have the public hearing. It's on the agenda.
It wasn't in the packet, I'm sorry.
Sandy, we're just, we're gonna defer to the next, or we're gonna do the next meeting.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah, it needs
when we advertise a public hearing, I think we gotta have it. We can defer the vote.
I don't have the ordinance, I'm sorry. I
That's
thought it
okay.
was in the
Okay.
packet.
We'll just read it next week.
Okay, we'll just talk about exactly what it is. This is a quick claim of a servitude. This is revocation for Cheryl Andrapoint. This is Lewis Road, located in Council District 8. Okay? The public hearing is open. Is there anybody here from the audience that would like to talk about this particular agenda item? No? Anybody from the council that wants to talk about this? No? Okay, we're now gonna close the public hearing. It's been brought to my attention, actually, y'all wanna go ahead and read it? I mean, we already closed the public hearing, but Ms. Lauren has found the ordinance, and Sandy,
This is an ordinance as follows to it. Revoking the dedication, abandoning, and quitclaiming in favor of Cheryl Lewis Andrepont and Jimmy R. Lewis, a 30-foot all-purpose servitude identified by the crosshatch portion as shown on the preliminary plat, showing the revocation of a 30-foot all-purpose servitude across a 2-acre tract, Lot B and Lot 1, located in Section 7, Township 9, South Range 6 East, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, by Brett J. Martin, professional land surveyor, dated May the 6th, 2019. So the public hearing will be held on August 22nd at 6:30.
okay? So, the public hearing on the adoption of LP ordinance number 19-20, in case you didn't hear, will be held on August the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. It's being deferred. Agenda item number 11. This is also a public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 19-23 to dissolve mosquito abatement district 2 and 3. Actually, that's abatement district within council district 2 and 3. And I will now open the public hearing. Sandy, can you read that ordinance?
Yes. This is proposed ordinance 19-23. This is an ordinance to rescind ordinance number 18-15 adopted on April 26, 2018, providing for the creation of mosquito abatement district 2 and 3 and establishing a board in the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, and ordinance number 19-07 adopted on March 14, 2019, amending and clarifying the boundaries of mosquito abatement district 2 and 3, comprising all that territory in the parish as set out herein and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Okay, is there anybody from the audience that would like to discuss this particular agenda item? Come on up, ma'am, and state your name and your address.
Shannon Sloan, 9943 West Summerfield. I'd just like to know if y'all have an update on the total cost of the program yet? Are we still waiting on the Secretary of State?
Shannon, we're gonna
invoice?
defer this item because we don't have all the bills in yet.
We don't have
We don't have all the bills to pay, so we're gonna defer the item.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've done a little research on that. I think that we have, and I believe Jennifer Mike can help me, but I think the parish spent, or the mosquito district spent with the big billboards on the roads and the full newspaper ads and the yard signs, I think they billed out or spent $3,500. And I think it was Mr. Jim Ryan said it was gonna cost the state about $15,000. It wound up costing the parish $25,000 is what the state charged the parish to put the election on the ballot. I'm just telling you.
I don't have the bill.
Well, I'm just telling you, we've called and that's what's coming in. So
Okay.
the total, that, and then there was a 5,000, I think 5,000 from Jim Ryan. And, of course, we're still waiting on Butler Snow, but I think it's gonna wind up costing this parish about $35,000 for that little venture that we went out to put on the ballot for mosquito abatement. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, how accurate you want it, but that is gonna be pretty close to what it cost this parish to put that on the ballot. Now, I think the parish gave the mosquito district $22,000, so that's gonna leave a deficit of about $11,000 that maybe the mosquito district could pull that out of their pockets, but I don't think so. I think this is probably gonna wind up coming out of the parish fund somewhere, so.
So it just gets deferred, this gets deferred until we have that final information,
Well,
right?
yeah, and as of tonight, we're gonna abolish the mosquito abatement district, I think. And then, so they won't be charging any more,
Well,
so.
From what I understood, we cannot really, because we need to wait until those invoices get paid before we actually
So
abolish
we're
them.
gonna
Is that
defer.
true?
We have the public hearing.
Well, it'd be a lot cleaner if you do it that way.
Let's make it clean.
Will there be any kind of audit of their funds, or no?
I don't, yeah, Jennifer spent all the money, so it's gonna be
I
audited.
mean, technically, I'm writing the checks, so they get reviewed, any expenses get reviewed when our auditors perform the audit. Just like, I've taken over fire aid books temporarily, any activity
It's gonna be
So
documented.
nothing else could be spent unless Miss Jennifer said spend it.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
You know, that's.
I don't know what else you would spend.
I,
it.
look,
We're done with it.
I
It's
would
done.
hope
It's
you
over.
don't. I would
It
hope
didn't
that
pay.
they don't. Did y'all have a secretary or no?
Yeah, but they didn't get paid anything.
You were the secretary?
Well, I'm
We had to have it on the
handling all
board,
of the
but
writing the checks.
Was there a treasurer for the mosquito board?
No.
No treasurer, so you did it all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
no money
On
ever came to
advisement, on
the
advisement
board.
of the board, I mean, I don't just take it upon myself.
okay.
Listen,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
For some good discussion.
Yep.
Is there any more
All right.
discussion from the audience on
So
this
when are we-
particular agenda item? No?
Are
All
we,
right, is there any more
yeah,
discussion from
if
the
we
council?
defer it, are we gonna pick a date, or we just gonna wait until the bills
I
come
think,
in?
I think we'll defer to the next council meeting, and we should have the bills in.
Okay, all right.
Because Butler Snow, in lieu of charging us what they're normally gonna charge us what their cost.
That'd be nice. I appreciate that.
So basically, Butler Snow is figuring out the man hours that they have, and we're gonna pay
Instead of a flat.
the rate related
Okay,
costs associated.
Good, that'll save some money. Cool. All right,
All right.
so we got a vote.
Anybody else want to talk about this?
Defer?
Okay, we're now gonna close the public hearing. Okay? So we don't have to vote to defer, correct? We're just gonna defer this particular agenda item until all the paperwork's cleaned up and all the invoices are paid, and we can truly dissolve this at, the two District 2 and 3 councilmen's wishes. All right. Agenda item number 12, Parish President's Report.
So I'm not the parish president, but since I had to be here for the audit anyway, I drew the short straw. We only have one small thing tonight. We are, you have in front of you a contract, engagement agreement that we're asking you to review and authorize Mr. Layton to sign to enter into a contract with Fair and Honeycutt for opioid litigation, and I believe Mr. Honeycutt's here. If y'all want to have him present?
Yeah, come on up and just introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Blaine Honeycutt and Colt Four, both the Fayard and Honeycutt. We had a long presentation. There's nothing wrong with efficient government. Bottom line is, I think y'all know about the opioid litigation, and I think now's the time to step in. If you want a place at the table, now's the time to do it. We're local, we've been there forever. We're offering our services to you on a contingency basis. Contracts in front of you. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. But then we'd like to put on the agenda at some point in the future to have you approve the contract.
Chris, you read the contract?
I have. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
They do good work. They have a lot of experience in this kind of work, and they are already handling many of these cases for other entities, so I recommend it.
Cool.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Talbert to,
Bubba had it.
enter into this, engagement agreement, give the authorization to the parish president to do that. And we have a second by Scooter King.
Okay,
Bubba Harris.
One.
Bubba Harris seconds the motion.
We're gonna open
Is there
mic.
any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? Any more from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you very much.
looks like
Appreciate you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
they're ready for y'all.
Very important.
Grab one, pass.
Where'd your money go?
Okay, at this time, it was the wish of the Councilman Gary to move agenda item. I'd like to honor that wish. We're gonna now move agenda item number 15 up the list, above 13. Okay? This particular agenda item is to discuss the commercial building located at 38108 Louisiana Highway 16, Denham Springs, Louisiana. Gary will open up the floor and allow you to do your thing.
Back on, March 8th, 2019, it was brought to my attention that there had been an attempted arrest by the sheriff's office of two individuals, next to a manufacturing facility in Livingston Parish on Highway 16. and one individual had run up in the facility. And constituents around there called me over the concern for a building that was being built there. Initially, it was, I did some investigation for a permit at that address, road at the front, couldn't see it. Anyway, drove up a gravel road on the side and saw this big structure being built. I contacted the director of planning on March 11th to find out how this building was being built in my district, and it had not been through the planning commission. There had been no sign posted out front. There had been no on the planning agenda had not been through the council for approval on this commercial structure. And I was told that there had been an affidavit signed back in September of 2018, basically for a family partition requesting additional address for a residential structure. And a residential permit had then been issued for this 9,000 square foot plus building, or application made on November of 2018, and then a permit issued at a later date. And to be honest with you, I don't know what date the permit was issued because it doesn't have a date on it. I think sometime in January of 2019 is my best guess. Anyway, planning, I think the planning director, parish president, the fire marshal, and a representative of the fire marshal went out to the facility on March 12th, did an investigation, found plenty of deficiencies, and building was stopped. On the construction on the building was stopped. It was then the plans were submitted or corrected on the building, and it was submitted to the fire marshal for approval as a commercial structure that would house 46 residents. However, there was no sign posted. There was no notice for the planning department, to go before the planning commission, nothing coming before the council, no drainage impact study, no traffic study, none of the normal things that would happen on a commercial building. So in essence, the building is legally permitted. The permit was corrected. The fire marshal reviewed the plans. They were found to be adequate without deficiencies, and the permit department issued a permit. However, the planning department has done nothing. There has been no advertisement to notify the residents around there of the commercial structure being built. There has been no sending to the planning commission for review. There has been no item on the council agenda allowing for the construction or movement forward of a normal commercial building, which is allowed for there's no a permit. A set of plans has a building to be reviewed. It doesn't address parking. It doesn't address the fence. It doesn't address retention or any other associated related items on a commercial building. So consequently, the residents of Watson, the Live Oak area that I represent, up until yesterday, most of them didn't even realize that this building existed. And it's unfair to them that the process hasn't been followed and the due diligence done by the parish government with respect to drainage and any other related, things that might impact the citizens that reside around there. So consequently, I've requested that this item be put on the agenda so that we could, as a council, discuss what our options are, Mr. Moody, with respect to being sure that the process is followed. What can we do as a council when the process relating to drainage impact, planning, traffic, notification of the citizens around there is bypassed? What by the administration, what right does the council have at this point in time?
Gary, I've not looked at this particular situation, so I saw the news piece today when somebody brought my attention to it, but I haven't looked at the various permits or what it was permitted for, and I haven't reviewed your ordinance for that. I'd say in general, the council doesn't have the authority to enforce the violation of an ordinance. That's the administration or the sheriff's obligation is to enforce your ordinances. I suppose you could pass a resolution asking the administration to take whatever steps necessary to remedy the lack of a permit. So I'm not quite sure beyond that what you can do.
Well, I mean, it just seems to me that, you know, we're almost setting a precedent in this parish that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. You know, if I do it wrong, it's easier on me to get caught bypassing the regulations, and then I don't have to do a drainage impact study, I don't have to notify the public, I don't have to go through the planning commission. Whereas if I did it the right way, I'd have to put my 4x8 sign up, I would have to, you know, give the people in the area notice, I would have to go through the planning commission, it would have to come before the council for a public vote, and then it would have to have a drainage impact study, and all other related ideas of the ordinance would have to be met. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, are we setting a precedent here that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission?
Without having looked at the details, I just don't know. I don't know what permit they have, when it was issued, what it was issued for.
Dee, you want to come speak to what permits they've got and don't have, and how that transpired? Mr. Latt.
Hey, I'm Dee Delat with the Permit Department. And on November the 14th, we had issued a permit for a new home. And then we had received a complaint once the home had started in construction. And we treated that as if we do with all complaints. And we sent people out, inspectors out to go look. And that's when we found that the project was not permitted correctly. So at that time, we did get with the owner of the property along with the planning department to try to get the person compliant. And they have since got with the fire marshal, got approval with the fire marshal, submitted plans for new commercial. We've got those plans approved, and we did issue a permit on June 19th, I think it was, for the new commercial.
You said they turned in plans?
They did. They part of trying to get them compliant was to make them go through the fire marshal and to submit corrected plans for a commercial development. And they did do that. The fire marshal did give us their review letter, approved review letter, and we did get a set of plans.
And that's what you require for a...
That's what we required for
for a
the
permit.
permit, yes. What we typically try to do is if the person is non-compliant and we found out after the fact, we try to do whatever we can do to try to get them compliant. And that's what we've done on this project.
Do we know if the parish review engineer has been out and reviewed to see if anything needs to be addressed? Do they feel confident that?
Dee, do you know what address that the permit was issued on? The original permit application was on 38108. Was the permit issued at 31108?
That's what I have. That's what
So
he
it's
had
a
came
separate,
in and
it's a separate
applied.
address than the actual
Yes.
original structure from the original business venture has a different address.
Yes,
So this
sir.
is a new address.
Yes, sir.
With its own boundaries, property-wise.
I'm not quite sure how it was divided in the planning department because they approved the plats and division of properties. I don't know if it was legally a separate tract of land that was subdivided or if this was just cutting out for or allowing a second or third address, whatever, on that property.
Okay, when I went and looked on the assessor's map, this particular piece of property is a separate piece of property.
A separate tract of
I think
land.
the owner's daughter has a house in the front,
Okay.
and they got a family partition for the back address. Is that what that affidavit was that was done on 9/26?
I don't have that. I don't know what affidavit you're talking about. Let me see. Just hold it up and I should be. Okay, that's with the planning department, so
Okay.
that would be something
So
that
it just
they-
created another address on the same piece
Yes,
of
sir.
property for a family member.
Before we can issue addresses, part of the ordinance is planning department has to approve to make sure that any new addresses meets the criteria of what the ordinances are.
All right, I just want everybody to understand that the building's permitted, but we've not been through the process. That's like, you know, we're gonna build a commercial building and we're not gonna do retention around it, we're not gonna verify that, you know, the parking is correct, we're not gonna verify that the handicap stuff is, you know, is the number of spots. I mean, we have skipped the whole process. The whole group of citizens in the Watson area that are gonna be affected by this building have not had their ability to speak to the public. And that's a tremendous concern as, from the councilman that represents that area.
So
Give-
this should go back to planning.
It
If
should,
the administration would send it back to planning, put their sign up, send them to planning and let them go
Let's
through,
talk about that.
then it's all,
Well, let's talk about that, guys. When we say planning, are we referring to the planning commission? Or are we just referring to, Leighton and his administration and the parish review engineer? Because to me, the planning commission, correct me if I'm wrong, what they're trying to do is look at the actual preliminary plot plan, okay? And review it to ensure that, you know, like Gary said, you know, servitudes are where they're supposed to be and stuff like that. When it comes to the traffic study and the gravity drainage study and all those different things that we discussed, that's the review engineer and that's Leighton and his administration that oversees that operation, and it doesn't come back to the parish council after the preliminary plot plan is approved.
no, never, we're done, yeah.
but
So, I
when,
mean, would that be an acceptable?
well, the public only gets to voice their opinion
If it's
at the
gonna go
planning
planning.
commission and at this council. After that's done, the public voice is lost. In this situation, the public voice has been lost from day one.
Okay.
So that's why I felt that what should have happened is when when this thing was not permitted properly, and it was determined that it should have been a commercial building, the process should have started for the public to be notified. And I just feel like we've skipped the whole process here. I mean, there was a comment made yesterday in an interview that, you know, if a building doesn't reside in the flood zone, it doesn't require a drainage impact study. Trust me, I've been through our ordinances, there's no mention of what flood zone you lie in for a commercial building, subdivision, or anything. Drainage impact studies are required on all of them. And if you remember, we didn't not long ago, you know, amend the drainage impact study to eliminate pretty much the loopholes so that they couldn't be avoided. So, I mean, I think given the fact that the drainage issues that we've had within the parish, the fact that Watson took a big hit in 2016, it's ludicrous not to have a drainage impact study done on any commercial building built in that area.
I agree.
So,
But how do we get
go
that
ahead,
done now?
Tracy or Scooter.
I guess
Go ahead.
my question would be, you said that this has never been to the council.
Well, I mean, I understand, well, I'm talking about parish government when I say we.
The first I've heard of this was yesterday myself,
Right.
and I got that from WAFB,
Right.
and that kind of concerns me, even though it is your district, and so it wouldn't directly come to me, but it would seem at some point come to you. It does seem to some degree like the process was, well, just not followed. But to be clear though, we
No, I mean, we never had
so-
we never had the option as a council
I
to
get what
speak
you're
to it or
saying,
vote on.
he's saying we, and we
When
didn't get a
I'm
chance.
referring to we, I'm referring to government.
Yeah.
And when I say we, I'm not talking about this council, I'm talking about government. There's no doubt that this never came to this council. Because the only way it comes to this council is with a recommendation from the planning commission. And it never went before the planning commission. I think we got some members of the planning commission shaking their head to verify the fact that it never came before the planning commission. And I think there are some concerns within my community, the community that I represent, of what this facility is gonna entail. And I think there's some concern that there's been a circumvention of the rules to prevent the people in the community to have a voice. And the people in our community deserve a voice. The people, if this was being built in your neighborhood, you would want the people in your community to have a voice,
Well,
I can
absolutely.
promise you.
Absolutely.
And so I think, given that situation, there's some people from my community here that I know wanna speak tonight, and I'm gonna allow them some, you know, would like the council to allow them to come, you know, voice their concerns, but at the minimum, I would like that this council pass a resolution, you know, requesting that this thing go through the proper process and have review by the parish engineer. Because every other commercial building built in this parish,
She
if
said
it's-
it was reviewed by the parish engineer.
no, it hadn't been reviewed by the parish engineer.
The fire marshal and our parish inspectors for the building itself. Yes, sir.
So,
Your
so,
office is inspectors,
Yes, sir.
okay, and they inspected for
The building,
proper
for
building.
code compliance, for the
and
building
I
codes. Yes, sir.
I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know any sure if they've been back. I know that there was a stop in construction. Have they started back construction since the permit's been issued?
The final permit to begin construction again under the commercial was last week.
Right.
So they met all the criteria
because, I
last
mean,
week and can
There
start
was a
back.
drone flown over the facility today, and some of the penetrations that would be required for hoods and some of that stuff are not there. So, you know, I know that there's still plenty of work left to be done. I think
Correct.
there's a fire extinguisher system that's gotta be installed, and sprinkler system, and a lot of other stuff.
They still have a
based
ways to go.
on the deficiencies. But, you know, it's not fair to the people of the community not to have their voice.
That's
And
why it's
that's-
set up the way it is.
I mean, it's set up so that everybody that resides in that area, that has the ability to speak with what's, you know, going on in their community, and that's, those people in the Watson Live Oak area deserve to have their voice and deserve to have it heard by this council.
Yeah, and I get that it puts the parish and the planning and permitting everybody in a hard spot whenever something like this is found.
But in
But to
essence,
protect the people in the parish, we have got to go back when we find these and say, y'all gotta start this today. And send them back through permit. They gotta go all the way permit, planning, the whole 9 yards, get the sign up. And that's what we would need to ask the administration to take care of for the people of the parish. Watson area right now, but it could be any of us next time.
Now typically on, additions to commercial projects, signs are not required. They don't make you,
but I
for-
think if you go back, Mr. Ladd, I think if you go back and look, you're gonna find that this piece of property is being built on a separate piece of property than what was originally permitted as, you know, Premier Concrete Products. But if you look at Premier Concrete Products, the original piece of property has grown and has continued to grow outside the scope. And so it's interesting that, you know, a particular facility is permitted with a boundary, yet it's continued to grow outside that boundary, you know, and that's kind of what's happened here. This is actually on a just separate piece of property, even though if you look at the aerial shots, it looks like it's right next door to an existing laydown yard or, you know, set of sea cans or barn. Those are actually sitting on a different piece of property. So it's not the same property, so it would require a different drainage impact study with respect to this piece of property.
Is it different tracks?
Yes, absolutely.
You got a copy of it in here or something?
I can bring it up and show you on the phone.
No, that's-
I don't
that's all
have
right. I just don't make-
I don't have a copy of the map, but it's absolutely different.
Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to discuss this particular agenda item? I think you gave us all we needed there, Ms.
thank
Black.
you.
Thanks.
Come on up,
Mr. Mueller.
come on up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gary.
You can get him back.
That's it now.
Put tax in
It's
his
Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N, Muller, M-U-L-L-E-R. Just to clarify, the dates that Mr. Talbert has discussed are accurate to the degree as me being the next-door neighbor to this plant, and have been since before the plant's inception. I've been there for 42 years. My wife and her family were the original Live Oak Plantation owners. Okay? That's how far back this goes. And this plant was sold to and by one of those descendants to Premier Concrete Products. And we've been somewhat good neighbors. There's a lot of noise. It has gotten worse. They've gotten different kind of machinery, and the noise has gotten worse. And you're seeing a lot of dust, and we're having issues with possible water contamination within the holding ponds that they have. So far, we haven't raised any issues. Well, then lo and behold, going back to these dates, in December, and actually in January, I started noticing some construction going on. And asked my neighbors if they'd been notified of anything. When I say my neighbors, that would include my son, who we asked to invest, or encourage, not asked to, but encouraged him to invest over $500,000 to remodel the old plantation home, thinking that this was going to be a good area in which to live and raise his children. And since then, his cousin, my niece, has built another brand new home on the border of this plant. There's a road separating them. From here to my car out here in the parking lot is how far we're talking about this new facility that came up and started coming up. So when it did start coming up, I raised question to Mr. Talbert, and Mr. Talbert says, and these were his words, there's no commercial building being built in my district. If there was, in that area of my district, if there was, I would know about it. And he says, but I'll look into it. Well, along came February the 21st. Now, we are, I think, near August, okay? On February 21st, he happened to be attending a banquet that I was going to. And I asked him if he'd looked into it. He says, yeah, I did, and there's no permits for that thing being done there or anything. There's nothing. He said, I was told there was a subdivision of some property, which was Uncle Percy's place that was, and I don't know the exact dimensions, but let's say Uncle Percy's place was 2 acres. They took an acre of it and were planning on building something, is what he had heard. I said, well, you need to come look. This is not some small project. This is a big one. And so he did. And he went out there and I think was quite astonished to see what is now a 12,000 square foot building that was built right in the eyes of everybody here, but you couldn't see it because it was behind the trees. And it almost it has the appearance that it was done with purposeful intent to deceive the people in that area. The least that could have been done would have been to notify the immediate residents, which would conclude, we've got 200 acres next to it, which would include my son. It would have been simple. My son, who owns the old plantation home, my niece that just got through building a house right there next to it, and her parents behind them, and then of course me. That's it. What simple notification could that at least be? And if we had an objection, we could have raised it at that time. But we weren't given the opportunity to raise an objection. The only thing we had the opportunity to do was call our local councilman, of which, by the way, he worked very diligently to at least get us the information he had. To use his words, and I hate quoting him, but I'm gonna.
He don't.
Everywhere I go to get information on this, I run into roadblocks. Now, if that doesn't sound intentional from somebody that is as forward as Gary Talbert, then I just don't know what is. So it's my plea, and if it's going through, to hear this news report, as most of you guys just found out about last night, that this was even going on, I mean, if it goes through, at least have a cease and desist until some sort of ordinance on a facility of this type that has not been done here yet that I'm aware of. Are y'all aware of any 46-person dormitories that have been built and maintained in the parish of Livingston? No show of hands, so there must not be. There must not be. So why don't we develop something? We develop ordinances for everything else. Why not have one for this? I'm not going to sit here and try to say, oh, well, I want to put Premier Concrete out of business. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to tell him to burn down this $2 million building that he just built. I can't do that. I mean, these are neighbors, and I want to be a neighbor. But I think the council could at least have a cease order of some sort till you could put your heads together and develop some sort of ordinance and procedure in which to handle this facility going forward. I don't want to walk out here thinking that, well, you know, I went in there and bitched and complained, pardon my language. I don't want to be like that. I want to go out saying, yeah, I want to be a good neighbor. If it happens, I don't want it to happen, but I think it's a foregone conclusion. But why not operate it to where the citizens in the Live Oak community know that it's being operated properly? That not only for our welfare, but the welfare of the people that are going to be in there. You know, what, have we been charged with anything where we know that there's 46 to 50 people living in a facility? I mean, how do we know that they're being cared for properly? How do we know that that habitat is going to be sufficient for them to live in? If it's not sufficient for them to live in, then that could cause revolt and other crazy things that we don't want. If any of y'all have any questions of me, I'd be glad to answer them. I'm concerned, and I think you should be too, as Gary had mentioned earlier. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to speak on this particular agenda item? Come on up.
My name's Kevin Landrino. I'm 1410 Carolyn Sue Drive, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Been representing Premier Concrete for over 20 years. Premier Concrete has been in this parish for 20 years, employing people, paying taxes, doing the right thing and doing good things for the parish. As the previous speaker just mentioned, he lives next door to them, and they've been a good neighbor to him most of the time. And he says he wants to be a good neighbor as well. What ended up happening here is a building that the owner thought was going to be a residential structure and should be permitted as residential, went and got it permitted as residential. When he discovered that it wasn't a residential structure, or it shouldn't be permitted as a residential structure, it should be permitted as a commercial structure, he went and got it permitted as a commercial structure, just like the ordinances of this parish require. He went through all the process, went through the proper administration, had plans drafted, cost some $25,000 to have plans drafted, went to the fire marshal, had the fire marshal review those plans, is putting in a fire resistance system of over $50,000 to protect the facility. Everything, every step that has been walked through for the purpose of a commercial facility has been followed. The simple misunderstanding early on was, the thought was that it was commercial, it was residential because residential people were living there. That's the reason it was residential. That's when you go to the administration can tell you how you should permit it. They thought it was going to be permitted that way. Maybe he made a mistake in the beginning. He's rectified that. Mistakes get made all the time, and they can get rectified. And that's what happened in this case. Now, Mr. Talbot has come and said that, well, all commercial structures should have to go through this process. Mr. Talbot owns buildings that are commercial structures that haven't gone through that process as well. Mr. Talbot has his own building that he purchased that was a residential structure that he purchased after the flood, and has rebuilt that structure and is using it as a commercial building. Has he come to any of you and asked for approval of that? Has he walked through all of the proper steps to do that? No. This is a political issue, purely political. Although Premier Concrete, Mr. Goss has given some money to Mr. Talbert, he has a sign out in front that's supporting his opponent. And the next thing you know, we have this that we have to come face before this council. We didn't have any notice of that. You know how we found out? This was going to WAFB. That's how my client found out about this issue coming up. Not, hey, let me send a notice and let's have a discussion. Hey, let's sit down and go through this process. That didn't happen. The only reason I'm here is because I found out about it through news media. And so that I could come show up and protect my client's rights and interests. He's a taxpayer in this parish for over 20 years. This property is not in a flood zone. Now, whether or not the ordinances require a drainage study, we don't believe it does because it's not in a flood zone. But this property is a concrete plant. The whole property is a concrete plant. So when you think about they're building a commercial structure on a commercial building, actually probably an industrial complex, they're building a commercial building. And so to say that, well, you know, this is difficult for us to understand that a commercial building would get built on an industrial complex. Well, yeah, that's what you do on commercial properties, right? You build commercial buildings, okay? Now, initially, because it was because residents would be living in it, he thought it was residential. That's been rectified. That's been taken care of. All the plans have been submitted to the proper authorities in this parish. This property was properly subdivided. I don't know if you've gone out and seen it. Apparently somebody's gone and flown a drone over it today. But that property has 2 drainage ponds on it. They're tested regularly to make sure that they're compliant, regularly to comply. I mean, this is not just some haphazard facility that's been going on out there. It's been going on for a long time, this facility. And so we submitting to you, we don't know why it's come up before the council. We kind of have a suspect why it's come up before the council, but it's not properly before the council. This issue is an administrative issue, and the administration has already decided to issue permits on this property. Now, if a drainage study is required and the administration calls us and says, hey, we need to do a drainage study, we're going to do it. We're not going to try to skirt any law, avoid any law. If a drainage study is necessary, I can promise you it's going to get done probably in the next week. It'll get accomplished if that's what's necessary. But to say that someone that is pouring concrete 24 hours a day on this property, it's a manufacturing facility. They're pouring concrete out there 24 hours a day. They have workers going out there 24 hours a day. 18-wheelers show up to start hauling materials at 2:30 in the morning from right down the street. Y'all probably know where the next pit is, where they're hauling materials from. I mean, this company is generating a huge amount of taxes in this parish. And to be brought before this council based on a news story instead of at least someone coming up and saying, hey, we need to talk about this, we think this might be an issue, or getting a letter or something. No, the first thing that happened was the news got called. Why would that happen? Why would the first thing that we get notice is that, hey, there's going to be a news conference on that? I think y'all need to think about that. Why did that happen? It happened because there was a sign of an opponent in front of Premier Concrete. That's why it happened. And I think that Mr. Talbot knows that he's had some issues with his own commercial properties, that he hasn't had all the proper permits and jumped all through the proper hoops for those properties. Now maybe he's going to go do that and get that rectified. Is that going to have to come before the council? Or are y'all going to have to pass a resolution for that? Is that what's going to happen? My client has done what has to get done to rectify this situation. It's unfortunate that it happened, but it has been rectified. They've been a good neighbor in this parish for a long time, and they intend to continue to be a good neighbor in this parish for a long time. They will continue to pay large amounts of taxes in this parish and continue to do the things that are necessary to be a good participant and neighbor in this parish. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let Ms. Laws.
Come on up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
Muriel Laws, 26253 Public Glen Drive. Mr. Muller, I'm having a deja vu moment because we've been here having this conversation not a whole year ago. And so I'm speaking as a constituent who feels that we're the pawns in this political and business chess game here. We got stuck with a 152 unit building in our community without notice. Without notice. We woke up one day and there was a sign, just like you probably got surprised. Yeah, it was 152 units. So therefore, our community has suffered. Our community has suffered tremendously because of activities such as businesses coming into communities and just constructing without letting the people who live there know. And something with Livingston Parish, the ordinances, the parish president, the planning office, there is a disconnect that we as constituents are getting affected by. There has been a mass exodus in my community. Property values have suffered because of that 152 unit building that was just stuck in there. Just as that may happen with you all. It needs to be worked out because the constituents in Livingston Parish deserve better than that. Thank you.
We'll finish this item, let's close this item.
Go ahead.
Okay,
I'll take over. Go ahead.
I now turn this meeting over to the co-chair of the Livingston Parish Council, Gary Frog Talbert. I need a 5-minute recess.
Mr. Mullins, come on, you wanna come up and speak?
Let me just clarify.
Come on, please come to the podium so that everybody can hear.
It is unfortunate that it's trying to be shown or characterized as a political situation. And let me tell you this, it's not. This situation came up and unless I was misled by Mr. Talbert told me that he called and spoke to the owner.
No, the owner spoke to me.
Oh, the owner
He
spoke
called
to
me.
him, that the owner spoke to him. Now, this was in March. He had no opposition at the time. There was nothing motivating him politically to interfere. So I just wanted to make that clear. There was no political situation going on when this all got started. Now, what I would like to do is invite the entire council, if they'd like to, tomorrow morning to come right down this driveway and look right at this whole deal and smell the sewage. And I didn't cover this because I did mention that they have been a good neighbor, but over the years things start falling apart when one neighbor's being a good neighbor and the other one's starting to fall the other way. And right now, what's living there is what is called a bunkhouse that my cousin built. It was a thoroughbred barn that she had for bunkhouses. And it started out where the owner of Premier Concrete asked my brother-in-law, could the tenant that was in that bunkhouse use our sewer system, our drainage sewer at the time, and I can't give you exact time, but let's call it 10 or 12 years ago, okay? To use it as the place for him to drain his washing machine and lavatory and stuff like that. Brother-in-law being a good neighbor, the owner being a good guy, said yes. Well, let me tell you what. There are now probably anywhere from 12 to 20 people living in this bunkhouse and 4 occupied travel trailer homes all attached to it. Now guess where that sewer system is flowing into now? He was given permission, he sure was, but look what we have now. Come smell it. I was out there this morning trying to look and couldn't stand to even be around it. Going into my niece's front yard. Come have a look. Just come have a look. You got an open invitation. And if you're going to work in the morning, come tomorrow evening. The smell will still be there. But that's what the other lady was referring to, and that's the point we're trying to make on what's going on. Thank you.
Can I say something about it?
Sure.
You know, I guess the first thing I want to address is Ms. Laws came up and spoke about the fact that, you know, the situation with respect to that neighborhood. They had a sign put up. The item went to planning. They were able as a neighborhood and a group to go address the planning department. They actually came to this council on 2 separate occasions to address us. And that's one thing that the citizens of Watson and Live Oak have not been afforded. And that's something that they deserve. To address my personal situation, let's talk about my building. Myself and 2 of my partners bought a house on A.B. Church Road that had been flooded. We bought a permit. We legally remodeled that house on a flood permit, which was what everybody in the parish was doing after 2016. We bought it in our company name, and we moved our company offices into it. And I'm gonna tell you when I knew I was in trouble. If y'all remember, we had an item on the agenda several months ago, Burning Lotus Tattoo Parlor.
Mm-hmm.
Burning Lotus bought a building that had been a, barber shop or real estate?
Finance company.
Finance company for years. Burning Lotus bought this finance company. And when Burning Lotus went to get their permit, they weren't classified as a commercial building. And I went to planning and self-reported my particular situation over there. And they had a guy from the fire marshal's office that's in the building next door come over and visit with me. And basically we had to draw plans. Well, I don't know about you, but we remodeled the building, we drew those plans on a napkin because they didn't require a review by planning at that point in time or the permit office. So we had to hire an architect to come out and draw the set of plans and as-built with the proper dimensions. Because what we're not in compliance in is we've got to assure that that commercial building is in compliance with the American Disabilities Act. And so those plans have been drawn, those plans have been submitted to the fire marshal for review. And when those plans are approved, they'll come out and do an inspection. Any deficiencies that we have as a business will be corrected. You know, we didn't change the footprint, we didn't build a new building, we didn't pour any additional concrete, we have not affected the drainage of the community whatsoever. So yes, I do have a personal deficiency on a commercial building. I've acknowledged that, I self-reported it, and we're doing the things we need to do to correct it. Given that situation, that particular permit and that particular residence didn't require notification of the neighbors. It did not require to go through planning. It did not require coming to this council, and it did not require a drainage impact study. So what we're doing there is bringing that into compliance with respect to how the parish laws are established. So I've acknowledged that. I've acknowledged it for everybody. The people of Watson still deserve the right to have their voice with respect to that building. And we as a council have the right to determine if that building negatively impacts the health, safety, and welfare of those residents. So I would ask that this council support a resolution demanding, not asking, demanding that the parish president send this thing through the planning commission, having the site plan, preliminary site plan submitted to this council for approval, and the parish engineer reviewing that site plan and the drainage impact study and the parking to make sure it follows the parish code. And that the people of Watson will have their opportunity throughout that process to voice their opinion. And since this seems to be such a politically motivated opinion, or opinion of Mr. Goss's attorney, let's say that, let's make no mistake, that on March 11th, I contacted parish government. I didn't pick up an opponent until May 28th. So if you want to look at what's politically motivated, I have a feeling my opponent's more politically motivated than what I want done for the people of Watson. So I'd like to make that motion that we demand that by resolution that the parish president send this to the planning department, to the planning commission, and then come before this council and then have their drainage impact study evaluated. Any other ordinances that relate to a commercial building be followed to the letter.
It looks like we got some more discussion from the audience before we vote.
Is there a second?
Is that within our scope?
We can pass a resolution and do just
I
like.
mean, like understanding, resolutions are not binding. We know that. We've been the last council found that out. We know that they're not binding, but that's the least that this council can do for the residents of Watson.
Do we need to say that he must do it? We can't ask him to do it?
Well, you can ask him all you want. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter how you word it.
I mean,
We wanna be nice and say, please.
Is there any more discussion from the audience? We have some people.
Something upon me, Lord, it's over with, right?
Mr. Chairman,
I hear you, Mr. Bubba. We got several
procedurally,
people-
You ought to get a second to the motion, otherwise it just dies, and then there's no need for discussion. Is there a second?
Is there a second to the motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Got a second by Scooter King. We had a motion by Gary Frog Talbert to pass a resolution to send this particular development back through the planning commission. Is there any more discussion from the audience? We have several hands up, so let's just take one at a time. Ma'am, would you like to come on up with the navy blue shirt on?
Black.
That was black, Mom. I ain't got my glasses.
It's Navy.
Oh, it's black.
Okay.
I am Cheryl Amoroso at 34504 Gravesbriar, and I am actually just here as a Live Oak community person, and I just wanted to say I agree. I don't care if it's political, I don't care if it's somebody's firm got like a big planning, got to draw things up. It's unfair, and I think that not only in this situation, in all the situations in Livingston Parish, I think that's a broken system. If somebody is not in compliance, that they just say, oh, what can we do to get you in compliance in something that would require like that, having to go before commission. Like that's not just a little thing. And to compare a little house, which I don't know anything about that till today, but to a 40-something, a dorm, is it like the people who work there? Is that what they're gonna do? They're gonna live there?
I think, well, Gary, can you answer that question?
We don't.
I don't know nothing about the building.
You asked about the dorm?
Is that the people that work there are gonna live there?
That's my understanding, is that the dorm is built for the employees that are gonna be working at Premier Contract. I think they're working there now, they're living, they're living in travel trailers and what Mr. Muller referred to as previously a horse barn that has been remodeled into a bunkhouse. And, I don't know how many people they have living there. I know that the new facility was permitted by the fire marshal for 46 beds.
Right. Well, I mean, I just feel like I would hope that if somebody was gonna move a bunch of grown men close to my subdivision where my children are gonna be, that y'all would figure out a way to make that right, that people are made aware and that this can't happen, so. And I appreciate Mr. Talbert for bringing this issue up. Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to say something about this? Come on back.
I am a little disappointed that you're gonna go through with a resolution if you're gonna do that.
I'm
but
sorry,
I am a little disappointed if you're gonna go through with a resolution, because I don't think it's appropriate, that gets done. But in any event, the intent of this particular project is, there are workers that work, this place works 24 hours a day. So there are times when employees need to stay there, that do live there. There's never been 46 people, never will ever be 46 people, although it has been permitted for that. There's a couple of apartments in there for out-of-town workers that for a fit, they have a plant somewhere else. Every once in a while, those people need to come stay, so they just stay in those apartments, so they don't have to go rent something somewhere. That's why this facility has these extra rooms for these people, so that when someone comes in, if they're working a 12-hour shift, they have a place to go lay down. If they're working, if they're working a longer shift, this is an opportunity for them. And now, I know he mentioned something earlier about maybe some sewage issues. That's never been brought to our attention. However, this new facility, that's why we got plans. That's why we went through that process. That's going to be taken care of. That was one of the issues there. So I think everything that is necessary to have a good commercial building on a, what I guess you can call an industrial property, that is, all of those steps have been taken. And I hope you understand that there's no ill intent in this. And I know Mr. Talbot says that, well, he did look at this in March of 2019, but it didn't come to you in May of 2019, did it? It didn't come to you in April of 2019, did it? It didn't come to you until now. So it could have been, if that was really a concern then, why didn't it come to you then, when that issue was there? That could have come to you then, but it didn't.
Because I was told by the administration this thing would be handled properly, and it hadn't been handled properly because the people of Watson still hadn't been notified.
It went through the process. That's not my owner's problem. It went through the process that is set in place for this parish. And it got approved through this parish, through the process. And it actually, this is a planned, architectural designed building with fire safety measures and everything in it. Now, Mr. Talbot said he's just getting his in the same position right now. He's just getting it ready. It's just going through his planning process. This one's already gone through that planning process. Those plans have already been submitted and approved by this parish. Mr. Talbot hasn't even been done that yet. So, is there going to be proper parking there? What impacts is this having a residential house now becoming a commercial building? What impacts are that having on the neighborhood? There's nobody here protesting. It's, you know why? Because no one went out there and said, I'm going to attack this building for Mr. Talbot. Nobody called WFB and said, I'm going to have them come look at this commercial building that there's a problem with. Nobody did that, right? But they did it for this building. So you can understand what happened there. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that y'all are getting in compliance. Is there visions for a fence, like our commercial buildings require?
What type of fence are you talking about?
Well, it's
Privacy.
fence
Okay.
around the facility.
I guess if that's something that is a concern here, I can talk to my client about doing that.
Well, it's not a concern, it's the rule.
Okay.
And
Which
see,
would normally something that would come out in the site plan, and there is no site plan, because all we have is a floor plan that's been approved by the fire marshal.
And so this building is kind of in the, I would say, it's far off the road. It's not just next to the road. So it's a good distance off the road. It's on a large tract of land. So it's not like it's just one building built on a little small piece of property. It's a large piece of property. I assume some of you have seen Premier Concrete out there. It's a large piece of property. So it's not like it's just this huge building on just a little half-acre piece of property. That's not what it is. There's a large piece of property out there.
The ordinance says a buffer zone shall consist of an 8-foot-high solid wood brick or masonry fence between the residential and commercial, industrial, multifamily, religious, educational, institutional, or public property lines. There's no waiver in what that ordinance says. It's very straightforward. But you're not held to that standard because you don't have a site plan that's been approved by the parish engineer. And that's my concern with your whole facility out there.
Mr. Talbot, you could have sent a letter and asked for that.
You don't think that I've reached out to Mr. Goss?
You could have sent a letter. You didn't send a letter. All you did
No,
was say
I
you made a
didn't send
call.
a letter.
You could have done something to say, hey, we have these issues. How can we work through those? But you didn't do that. Instead, you called WAFB.
No, I didn't call
All you
WAFB.
had to do was call them.
All I did was put an item on the agenda for this council to discuss it.
And they could read. I just read it, and I had no idea what we were discussing here today. I just read that agenda item, and all it said was a commercial property, that address. There was nothing on there to delineate what the discussion was going to be here today about that property
I have
at
a
all.
question. How long has, you say, Premier Concrete been there?
19 years.
And the neighbor here that was spoke earlier said He's been there before that.
Yeah, right. I think he said that his cousin sold the property
Right,
to him.
right.
Yeah.
But, and all that time, has there ever been a fence in between?
No. There's a tree line. There's and I think if you saw the
wasn't
WFD
required.
video, you saw a tree
It
line.
wasn't required. When it was built 19 years ago, it didn't require. And to be quite honest with you, if you go to the original tract of land that Premier Concrete was originally permitted on, they've acquired the land from Mr. Percy Easterly, and they have continued to spill over the original property line on the other piece of property without any regulation with respect to the fence. And when that new address was given on that new piece of property, there should have been a site plan done, there should have been a public hearing, and there should be a review by the parish engineer to be sure that that new building meets the parish ordinances.
Don't get me wrong, the reason I wanna send a resolution to Layton is if they've done everything that he thinks y'all should do, then that's all we can deal with. We can't get him.
That's all we can know is because
and
we
and
applied
that's
for
the
a
only
commercial
reason I would
permit.
wanna
And
ask
we
him to
applied.
look into this
I'm sorry.
depth and make sure that everything that he would require as administration has been done.
My client applied for a commercial permit and he was given a commercial permit. He was asked to do what he had to do and he did it. So he got the plans drawn, he got everything done through an architect and got it approved. And all you can say is, what more does he need to do if the administration gives him a So if you guys are saying that there's something else he needs to do, then maybe you can ask Layton, hey, these things that need to get done, and have that communication.
And that's what this resolution is doing, asking him to do it.
And I understand. I just wish that you'd have done it differently.
I'd like to offer something here. It feels like, well, first of all, I think at this point, this council is powerless to do anything because of the process. So all we can do is offer a resolution to asking, or however you want to phrase it, to the parish president. But considering how I learned about this last night, and it seems like that happens a lot. For some reason, you find out at the last minute. I would like to offer a motion up to defer it to the next meeting. That way, I can gather information, you can, because we're being hit with a lot of stuff. And all we can do right now is ask the parish president to look at it. And it's infuriating that that's what we're reduced to. That's what we're reduced to right now. Now, was the process followed correctly? I mean, doesn't sound like it, but at the same time, it might have been. And I've been working on this for about 24 hours, and
About me too.
that is, and I understand, because when you said that, I was the same way. I didn't actually hear it. I read it online. I read it. So, I would like to offer a motion to defer this to the next meeting. I'd like to make a counter motion to defer this to the next meeting.
Okay.
That way, that gives them us all time to educate ourselves on this. This isn't something that we got a week ago or a month ago. This is something I got literally about 24 hours ago. And it's a lot of heated back and forth. It's a lot of things that we need to be able to sift through. Opinions aren't the same thing as facts, and facts aren't opinions.
You think you can look at our ordinances between now and the next meeting and figure out,
Yeah, I just need to get more details about the history of the permitting and what was permitted and why it was permitted, and whether this could be considered an ancillary use to the industrial site that's already been there, and so.
I just think deferring it would give us, you can still make your demand at that point, but
There's not been an occupancy permit issued, I assume, so they can't start occupying the property until they get the occupancy permit. The occupancy permit's not supposed to be issued until they've met all requirements of the statute, so,
And
that
then there
will
would be
happen between now and your next
Yeah,
meeting.
that's right. Yeah, no, I don't think that would happen either.
So I'd like to make a counter motion that we
He needs to
defer.
see if there's a second to his motion.
course, if we do that, then
Okay, so-
we're gonna have to sit through this all again and hear the same thing over.
You know what, I'd rather do that and be
Get it wrong.
educated
I
on
mean,
this.
And you know,
I
there's a
mean, do you
slim
feel
possi-
like you know everything you need to know, Mr. Wascom? I'm gonna ask him. Do you feel like you were confident in
Well, we've
everything?
heard there could be a problem, or we've heard that there's
May not be any
either
problem.
intentional mishap, or there's either intentional political
So
on
the
Mr.
an-
Gary's
your
part.
answer's
So
no.
one of the two here.
So the answer's no, you feel like you
You
don't
know?
know everything you need
Mr.
to know.
President, the motion is non-debatable, so you have a motion and a second. You
I'm trying to get there.
But
Okay, so we had a motion on the floor by Gary and a second by Scooter to authorize, well, pass the resolution, you know, to send it back to the planning commission, okay? Now we have a counter motion by Tracy to defer this agenda item to the next council meeting. And now we have a second by Jeff Averett to do, to. for
Pick
that
it back
motion,
up again.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if anybody else wants to talk, we're gonna fix,
I'll leave it.
you go, Sandy, say what you wanna
She
say.
needs to call, she needs to call for the vote on the substitute motion.
Counter motion
The
or
substitute.
Substitute.
Motion to table,
Counter.
motion to defer, it's the same thing, so it's a motion to defer is essentially a motion to table to a date certain or a date
And they may come
uncertain.
up with
So
some-
I'd say the motion should be a motion to table to our next meeting.
It's a
Motion to
substitute
table to
motion.
our-
And it's a
Yeah,
substitute.
substitute
motion.
motion to table till the next meeting.
Table it to the next meeting.
Okay.
You need a
Y'all
vote on that.
done talking on this?
All good.
Okay, so I called for the vote on the substitute motion.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Agley,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Girlingham,
Yes.
Mr.
He'll be-
Oliver,
yeah.
Mr. Matt,
Yeah.
Mr. Wascom,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
No.
We're in trouble.
You gotta have
I
vote.
told you.
Now I'm gonna get punished.
Okay, so that being said,
No, I think.
that particular
I think that
motion
was-
carries.
So we don't need to vote on the original motion.
We don't need to vote on the original
So
motion.
let's move on to the next item.
So let's move on to the next item.
You don't stop.
Okay, so, agenda,
13.
Item
Okay.
13.
Well, when you get to, you-
we're on agenda item 13. Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Mark
you
Howard.
want me to speak for him? I talked to him today about this.
Well, I was, but I think you might could do a better job. Why don't you try?
He said just get y'all to pass it.
Okay.
No, this is a closeout. He said there was some wording that was wrong. Isn't that right, Miss Sandy? In the last thing? And so they wanted it worded just a little different.
Right.
They sent it to the state.
They-
The
and they
state
kicked
said
it back.
we need more wording, but the wording was not stated at that meeting for that resolution that y'all adopted. That's why that wording was not in there.
I get it,
So
okay.
the state gave y'all a sample resolution that's in your packet. that we're supposed to
Nice.
go by.
That's what we want.
So I can't
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, and,
Okay, so,
yeah, and it was just to close out the waterway.
so we have a motion on the floor. Who made that?
Debris removal.
Tracy
Tracy.
Burlinghouse made the motion, to pass a resolution approving the closeout of the Hurricane Isaac Livingston Parish Waterway Debris Removal Project. Bubba Harris seconded it. Before we vote, is there anybody from the audience that would like to talk about this particular agenda item? Any more from the council?
No, I think we're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right. Agenda item 14. This is discussion of grinder pumps located in Serene Acres subdivision and possible legislation to require a disclosure statement upon the sale of property that uses grinder pump systems. This is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, and he would like to say something on this.
Yes, I would. Actually, Mr. Eric Harrell is here, and he would like to speak on this also.
All right. Come on up. Just state your name, your address, and
All right, Eric, last name Harold, 10049 Serene Road in Dillon Springs.
talk as loud as you can.
All right. I've been living at this address for about 5 years. Bought it brand new. Last year, had a 6-month-old baby. Grinder pump went out. 9 o'clock. So had to pack her up and find somewhere to, go stay for the night. And the first time I saw any paperwork for that planning for that 9 homes First time. When I bought the house, didn't see any of it. All 9 houses that was initially planned for this area have spent in repairs and replacement of these grinder pumps $25,000. And in sewage fees, we have only spent $19,000 in 5 years. We have a problem. We have a problem because HHS, the engineer that had this drawn up to get approval, everything on here that got the approval, 2-inch pipe, we got 1.25 inches. 3 horsepower pump, nope, 2 horsepower. Nothing was followed. And HHS said no completion paperwork was ever given to them. But I paid a permit to have utilities. And it's really maddening. I come from long years in regulation in the nuclear industry. This kind of thing would get somebody thrown in jail in a heartbeat. It's fraud. Something needs to be done about it. Just having somebody say, you own it, and nothing be followed, that's crap. Plain and simple. The developer, everything that he said that was on here, that Denham Springs Wastewater wants to hold us to, nothing was done. They say a HOA. You know what an HOA dues would have had to cover for 5 years for $25,000 in pumps? $400 a home. And guess what? We had 10 homes put in there, and only 9 were approved for this system. So what are y'all gonna do about it? And this same engineer, whenever I was trying to get paperwork, wanted me to pay for them. And I have the emails. You might want to rethink who you're using for this parish-wide sewer stuff. That's just straight and honest truth. 7 of the original 9 have already been replaced. One of them is limping along on a patch job. And one person that works for the parish president, hasn't even been there 3 years, has already had to do some repairs.
All right,
That's all I have to say.
appreciate
You
it.
got any questions?
Thanks, Eric.
I've been in that situation, had the same problem, because there's a certain parts of Walker that require to have grinder pumps, my house
Mm-hmm.
in particular. And I went through the same problems. It was what was required. The electrical wasn't in conduit, you know. The
Same
pump,
thing with me.
The pump was, actually, it was the right horsepower, I'll give it that, but the tank was small. So, you know, it's a submersion pump, so it basically ran all the time. You put 2 gallons of water in it and it ran. I mean, it wasn't, there were like 10 things that you had to do according to the permit, and 9 of them was not done.
Well,
And I get it, I had mine 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and I probably broke 3 or 4 times, you know, so I understand.
I did a rough estimate drawing for our little 9 houses, well, actually 10, but we never got a notice that a 10 was gonna be hooked up to. Over 2,500 feet it has to pump down to Graves Creek. Of course, we have an 8-foot drop in elevation, a 2 horsepower pump, that's a trickle. It's not pushing. You have any kind of blockage in there, anywhere, suspended solids, that Taco Bell on Jubin, it ain't gonna handle it.
Well, I know that I definitely agree that if there is not a standard for it in the ordinance to what you, because I had mine replaced to the city standard, and it has not broke once since. And that was 2012.
And yours isn't running at 2,500 feet.
It
Yeah.
probably is going a good ways.
What does the city of Walker require then?
Well, the state law,
What's the state
the
law?
state law requires run municipalities to a different standard, and that's how I,
Okay.
that's where I got it. The state law, if you're required, if you're forced to do it within a municipality, then, they have to do it to a certain code. And mine wasn't.
Who goes out and inspects it?
You tell me. I've been asking the same question. Nobody wants to tell me.
It sounds like to me it would have been.
Yeah, that's the same problem.
No, nobody wants to tell me stuff. Some of these documents, I had to find in my own accord. And this right here,
The installer gets to inspect their own work.
yeah,
That's how it works.
this right here is the drawing submitted to HHS for this approval.
DHS?
DHS, HHS,
Well,
Hey,
they changed it.
who are you tied into?
Denham Springs wastewater.
Yellow Springs Sewer District
Yeah,
One?
city.
Yes, I'm outside of the city,
And they tied you in,
and they tied me in.
and they said they're not responsible for the pumps, for the grinder.
They're not responsible for the pumps because they hold me to something that says that the HOA was going to be
Have you
responsible
spoken
for.
to them? I mean, you went to the city council and talked to them about this?
They showed me this HOA requirement.
I was with them when they were up there.
$416 a month to be able to cover $25,000 a pump.
Mr. Bubba, I want to ask you. did
No
you
HOA
have-
has that.
Did you have some type of resolution, possibly, not actual resolution, but some method to resolve this in any way, shape, or form?
No, I have been working on it ever since the first time I found out about this. I didn't know what a grinder pump was.
The $25,000 spent on the election for the mosquitoes could have paid for me at lift station.
You see, now you don't.
Can you,
Now you're singing my music.
oh, you just lost it, sorry.
But you made these two.
No, look, we did what we were asked to do.
Oh, no,
I'll do it again tomorrow.
I'm just pointing out money here.
Oh, I
So,
get it.
yeah.
But, okay, so I saw where you had asked for us to make a resolution saying that if this changes hands, you sell your home, that people need to know what they're getting, at the very least.
Yeah,
And
but I'm being held
at the
responsible for
beginning-
It
something.
would have to be when you
Yeah.
subdivided the property or developed the property.
Well, right, it needs to be in the front before you bought it, showing you there was a chopper pump type deal.
Y'all excuse me, I've got, Miss Jody Huffman out here.
Okay.
She's a realtor.
She's my next door neighbor.
And that's his next door neighbor, and, she wants to speak.
She's my muscle.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one thing. Why wasn't the rules followed to begin with? You're supposed to have a 2-inch line
Yep.
and a, what you said, a 3.
It should have been, it should have been called on the inspection.
Should have been called on the inspection.
And then the 1.25 line, and then one of the exit valves was plastic with plastic internals. It wasn't going to stop 10 psi. So
Everything he's
Don't
saying.
forget to state your name.
Oh, hey, Jody Carter Hoffman, 10059 Serene Road. And everything he's saying is foreign language to me and most of my neighbors. So he did the research. I just knew we were wronged. I knew something was wrong. I knew I was having issues. I knew I had people coming to me, which majority of people down our street are single moms. And, they were like, what is going on? I said, well, we're going to figure it out. It's a grinder pump. But we pay for city services, so nobody really knew what the grinder pump was for. We were told it's a booster, yada, yada. Me being in real estate, I should know, right? But I didn't, and I still don't understand it all. I do more so now that he's did all the research, but my neighbors aren't going to understand that. I mean, they're working, paying their taxes, raising their kids, doing everything they can do to just try to give their, family a nice life. These were new homes. Everybody bought them brand new. I think only one person bought it second. So we can't go back to the developer because one of them passed away, and then, okay, so 2 houses were built by one developer. He passed away. The rest of the houses were built by another developer, and he was murdered. He was murdered. So we have situations and all kind of stuff going on. So none of us even know what to do about how to get someone to help us take care of the original problem. So I guess my big concern is, first and foremost,
help us fix what was wrong, see what we can do to get us to a resolution that's fair and that will help everyone out, that just for normal living. I mean, we've had stuff floating down our ditches and so forth. It's been crazy. It's just been a wild, insane thing. But secondly, the whole idea of putting a document together that has to be signed, such as an addendum, it can't just be, hey, you have a grinder pump. Because everyone is told that. We trust that it means, okay, well, we're paying city sewer. We have this little booster like a garbage disposal. Yay. That's not enough, because to be responsible for this thing and to have to pay for it every few years or whatever the case may be, it needs to be an education of it as well, not just a little, hey, you have a grinder pump, check off. I mean, we have a MODAD addendum that we use. Any private septic systems, we have an addendum that we use. So that's pretty important, but that's not going to fix our problem. So we got a couple of things we want to work on, Futuristically, yes, having more explanations for it. And plus explaining to us how in the world our one little street got approved for this whenever it's not really a normal thing. We've talked about it, and we think money speaks, and the developer was able to push it through and just said, hey, I'm going to make the money off of it. Let's go on with it.
How old are those houses?
The one I'm in is 11 years old, because the first two that were built
Yours is younger than mine.
Were they using MODADs initially?
No.
No, because they're we're right off of Wax Road on Serene. You know that little...
I know, but that system wasn't there 11 years ago.
No, Charlie Adkins. This is Charlie Adkins' land. I don't know if y'all remember
you
him.
in 2012.
Okay,
So
so...
that's not 11 years.
The houses were built.
No, okay, yeah.
How many houses were in there again?
It was initially 9.
And they added...
They added the 10th, which is on the corner.
Susan Abels lives in the one of them, and then we had Jerry Denton renting one out. But this was, the developer was partnered with some other people, and
You
I
want me
just
to give you
think
names?
they know.
Homes, do what you're saying.
Yeah, you want me to give you names of the developers?
They
Y'all
know
them.
Let's talk about a resolution to resolve the
Okay.
problem.
Well, the builder also donated a lot of money to somebody. I'm just saying.
Well,
I think that you got two issues here.
yes. The previous issue that's not going to stop because these grinder pumps keep going out. I mean,
So, I think what, first issue is creating an ordinance, don't mean to speak for you here, that creates a standard that's acceptable. I know you could go to the city of Walker and get what they require, and that would fix it, because I don't guarantee you, but I'm fairly certain that since there was no minimum requirement, they put the littlest tank with the smallest engine,
You're right.
and they didn't do that correctly. I would wager.
You're right.
that
You're right.
That's the case, because that's what happened to me.
Right. We've
And
talked
you
about
put a proper
this.
system in.
Our
I mean,
tank-
will it break?
our tank
Yeah,
is
about every
good.
6 or 7 years you might have an issue, but that's part of
It has about a 5-foot lift, so it's a big tank.
Yeah.
The problem is the run,
Where it's
the
going.
lift,
It's,
and the horsepower.
we got some weird stuff. I don't know, some weird stuff.
Here's what I'd like to see. And I would like to get with the, Livingston Parish Sewer. They're getting ready to run a force main from Cuban Road almost to 16 down through there. And maybe we can discuss something with them and see if there's any way we can get not just them, but a lot of people up down there that has sewer running in the ditches.
A big trailer
Maybe
park.
get them all tied in.
Yeah, but force main, you can't tie into
I
that.
know you can't.
You can tie in with a grinder.
With a grinder pump.
You can turn it into a grinder
Now, if
pump.
they're running right from their houses,
Well,
and they're
no,
running the grinder
Yeah.
pump directly into that force, that'd
A
probably make
low
it.
volume force main. You
Right, it can't
even
be
do
a high
high
volume, it'd be
force-
bad.
High pressure force.
Right.
Yeah, the problem with that is you can't call a force main,
Right, I
that's
get you.
on a 2 horsepower pump.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I mean,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and don't get me wrong.
and,
Look,
and that's what the engineer has drawn
I
up
mean,
here.
obviously, the fact that this design can move forward in this parish probably needs to be addressed.
That's my main concern.
Yeah, that's
This
my main-
needs to
I mean,
stop.
The fact that a developer can go in and put grinder pumps and run a small pipe to a lift station or something to avoid the cost of putting in, you know, gravity with the lift station, which is what should have been done. There should have been,
Well,
there
that
should
was-
have, there should have been a gravity
Yeah, it
line.
wouldn't
there
took
should have
that
been a
big of a
gravity
lift
line
station.
With a lift station put
It was
in.
about money.
We have an 8 or 9 foot drop right there, so.
It's about money, but unfortunately, you know, I'm
We're past
watching
that.
everyone suffer and it's not
Oh,
fair.
I-
You
I-
get
I
it.
mean-
Y'all get it. I mean, I know that. I'm just
I
trying to.
understand. I'm just telling you, I mean, I don't know how to fix this situation. You know what I'm talking about? Because.
You don't know how to fix the situation.
Well, I mean, here's, we're talking about, I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest, I'm not trying to be. I mean, we're talking about,
I know that's a different deal than
What's
most
the
of it.
estimate, about 150 grand to run that, a gravity line for those 10 homes and then put a lift station, about $150,000?
Probably a little more than that.
Why don't?
175, I mean, I
We could
don't
do-
know what it would cost, I'm just telling you that,
We could do
that if you look at, you know, from the sewer department, the sewer deal's point of view,
Yeah.
if they made $150,000, $175,000, $200,000 investment, and they're gonna recoup $500 a month.
That don't
then
work.
I'm just telling you, I'm not trying to be ugly, I mean, the numbers
Well,
don't work.
we
in
had
that-
discussed possibly just figuring out a way that, kind of how Walker City takes care of their grinder pumps, maybe Denham could take care of our street. I know that's a little,
That's the city of Denham, though.
I know,
Well,
I know.
What you're
Just
saying is
coming
there's
up-
not gonna be that many there that were approved and not functioning properly, so
Right.
they could probably
Maybe they
just.
could adopt it. It's 10 homes, which were, you know, I don't know, there's just some things we talked about. We're
Yeah.
trying to come up with
get
something
it.
that makes sense. I'm selling my home, to be honest with you, so I'll ditch all my poor neighbors and, you know, I'm not getting a grinder pump in my next home, so, but I mean, I'm not leaving them without helping them because I'm gonna sell this house to someone.
Right.
And I've already been explaining it to people and they're looking at me and this is really what they say. They're like, okay, we're fine with it. Because they don't understand it. Even inspectors, I've walked with inspectors, you know, and they go back and tell their, you know, person, hey, it's just a little booster, it's normal, you're good. Well, unfortunately, with all his education, they're just wrong. They weren't put in right. I don't know what to do about it. Everybody's gone, you know, we're kind of in a bad place, so.
Have y'all had an engineer tell y'all the difference in head pressure on those pumps for an inch and what'd you say, inch and a half, inch and a quarter?
We had
versus
Eddie
a
come
2
out.
inch?
Eddie came out, but I have engineers that I have dealings with that say that that's really, for efficiency, for the longevity of a pump, you're looking at maybe 5 to 6 years.
Because of the increased head pressure because of smaller pipe?
Yep.
So if you upgrade, what's a 3 horsepower grinder pump?
3 horsepower pump is not even gonna work, even with a 2-inch line rebuilt.
Do y'all have grinder pumps?
Have you had an engineer
You
tell
can't
you
put
what you
bacon
need?
grease
Yeah, I
in
think that's
there.
where we
You
need
can't
to go
wash
with
your
this.
dishes. You can't.
Let's talk about
It's-
getting an engineer, you know, maybe a resolution or.
Another
I mean, it's
engineer?
crazy.
Well, no, but I mean, you're gonna have to design some type of, lift station and sewer system.
Well, wouldn't it be better to get the city to do that?
Hey,
I mean, if it's
hey,
hooked up to the
Go ahead,
city,
Mr. Bubba.
Is Mark
It's hooked up to their
looking for a
system.
USDA grant or something?
This is a,
I know, I get it.
Yeah, they are.
The trust that the home buyers have is that everything was followed right,
What's the-
code, we're
what's the
protected,
max?
we're gonna
What's the
buy it.
max
And that's
problem?
what people are gonna continue to do in life, so this needs to just be cured in a way that it's not gonna continue to cause problems later.
But see, I don't think, we don't have any say on the sewer quality, right?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I want to remind you that this parish is not in the sewer business.
That's why I was.
I
that's why I
know,
was saying
we
we
know,
don't-
I know,
They
we
have
just
sewer-
somehow have
They
all,
create sewer districts that are sub-agencies of the parish, that this council has no control over how they do their business or what their requirements are.
agreed.
The
Do you
parish
want- do you
could
want to know what
address
DHS
the
put in this
long-
document?
Can I finish?
yeah, go ahead.
The long-term solution is for them to consider an ordinance that would make the standards more clear. And
Yes.
then make that also part of any inspection before there can be any occupancy given, that the inspectors also check to make sure that whatever sewer system's in place meets your ordinance. Now, I don't know what you can craft to solve the problems of these people tonight or in that subdivision, but it could help reduce the problem in the future.
Yeah, that's what, I think they want their stuff fixed, but I think their main concern is, yeah.
We can take the filters overall, though, we can take the sewer system.
Okay, that's great.
Oh,
Usually
I
you
don't
do have to,
think
they
they
have to
get
have
involved in
typically
that.
an inspection.
What?
before they
Which-
have occupancy.
Yeah, this is a state document right here.
We've talked a lot
So
with,
they flew under
with
the
different
radar.
state.
And they're actually investigating why the completion document has not been filed.
I was just asking them how to help us and stuff like that, and they came out to my house and they kind of, because we had a neighbor who had plywood over hers because she couldn't afford a new one. She had to use the neighbor's bathroom for about a month, and she's the one, her mom works for the mayor's office. So, you know, we've tried to, there's a lot of moving parts, and we're just gonna keep talking about it till we figure it out. That's all we can do.
You wanna
Okay.
craft an ordinance to
Well-
that, to the,
yeah, we need to,
All right, so-
maybe we should draft it and bring it up at our next meeting.
we send it to the ordinance
Why don't we
committee,
just send
and I'll help you
We'll
write
get
that.
we'll get a copy of the one Walford has
Mhm.
for the ordinance, you know, and look at it and work from there.
I agree.
And
You wanna send it to the ordinance committee? What-
Jody being a realtor, she wants to kind of be involved in it too, so.
Well, there you
Come to the
go.
ordinance committee meeting.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we send this to the ordinance committee.
I'll second.
Perfect.
now.
So, we have a motion on the floor by Jeff Ard.
We don't have anything else to do, because we just kicked that can to
Send this agenda item to the ordinance committee to develop
Write
an
the
ordinance.
Not send it to the ordinance committee.
Well, thank y'all very
Thank y'all.
much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all's information. And then that second was by Tracy Girlinghouse. You got that?
Well, I didn't really get to say it.
Or y'all could, take us off the parish tax rolls for the sewage.
Hey, is there anybody else that wants to discuss this?
Yeah, I definitely will say something.
Come on up.
My name is Carl Spears, Bo Spears. Most people know me. Gary know me from Fence Sheetrock. I live at 10099 Serene Road. I also have the grinder pump as well. But I also work at Coburn's, who sells Zoller pumps. All right, so we sell the 2 horsepower motors, which I have in my sewer because I replaced it. And it's not the fact that the sewer pumps are bad. They're not, the grinder pumps are not bad. They're good grinder pumps. It's just not designed to do what they want it to do. These pumps are designed to pump out to the main, and from that point, something has to bring it down. Gravity or a force main. Something's not happening. That's not on us. Yeah, the grinder pump, we bought it with the house. I agree. That's our pump. We bought it. But we shouldn't have to repair a pump that wasn't tore up by us. We didn't tear it up. We didn't put tampons down in there, stay-free maxi pads or anything like that to tear the grinder pump up. It tore up because something was backfed through there, and when you got a grinder pump that's trying to push water out, it's going to sit there and grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. And pretty soon, that water's going to get so hot, it's going to boil inside that little tank that you have out there. These tanks are designed to have water in about yay high, which is about halfway up the pump. Keeps the pump cool. It's a two-process thing. Gets rid of your waste, this keeps the pump cool, sends it out, goes down the drain. Something is going wrong between our houses and the lift station down there by the golf course, which, by the way, they probably don't have any problems because they put a lot of money into the parish. No, they probably have no problems at all. But for our little state, our little 9-house subdivision where we're at, pushing water down, there's a problem. And that's not on us. I know it ain't on y'all either, but we gotta have somebody to help us. I mean, we bought a house in Livingston Parish. I've been living here all my life. Putting money into Livingston Parish, I need help. We need help. I can't come up with $2,000 every 5 years to replace a pump. I shouldn't have to, because no one told us this was gonna happen. So we're looking for help. Somebody needs to help us. I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Thanks for coming.
We appreciate the help.
Have a great one. Okay, so is there any more discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? Okay, so we had a motion on the floor. We got all that. We got the second. All in favor to send this back to the ordinance committee? Aye. Any opposed? None?
Negative.
All right. Agenda item 16, Gravity Drainage District Number 5 Board Appointment, Mr. Jeff Ard's district.
Sorry.
Yeah, we had, Mr.
Hoffman. Robert Hoffman was our vice chairman for, gravity number 5, passed away unexpectedly. So, we need to replace him, and I would, like to replace him with Mr. Chance Ballard. He lived his whole life in that area where that drainage is. I think he would be a lot of help to the drainage district. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Chance Ballard.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
I'll just say that Bob, Mr. Bob wasn't actually, it was Jeff's appointment. And he wasn't native to the parish, but he moved here after Katrina. But he was passionate and committed to
Absolutely.
to the project and to the drainage district, and he's a loss. You know, he
wanted to
was a
make
good
stuff
gentleman.
happen.
He would call me regularly and ask me questions about how things should be done, and very passionate about it. And I had talked to him a few days before, and he was feeling better and thinking, and then next thing I heard, he passed away. So I just want to acknowledge his commitment to the community and to the Gravity 5 board. He was a good man. Happen to know Chance Ballard too, the replacement. Also a good man. Known him since I was probably 10. Good old Walker guy. So he's committed to the community too.
Thanks for that information. Okay, we got a motion on the floor by Jeff Ard to appoint Chance Ballard, Gravity Drainage District 5. Second was by Tracy Gerlinghouse. My bad. Jeff Avery.
I like Chance. I don't like him enough to give him a second.
Was there any discussion from the audience on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda item 17, this is the discussion and adoption.
We
Do
don't have
anything out of
We
that?
don't have anything.
We almost did, but we don't.
All right, agenda item 18, this is the district attorney's report.
Let Jeff give them, I have no report on that.
Other than the fact that it's been a long meeting, it's not easy.
Hey, we only had 3 things to do. What's up with this?
Committee reports, Mr. Ordinance Committee Chair Gary Frog Talbot.
Nothing to
anything
report.
say?
Yeah, we talked about 45, 50 minutes a day and accomplished nothing, and kicked the sewer ordinance to
Didn't
the,
you have a filibuster by someone?
well, we kinda sorta.
Let's call it that.
What's the
So-
filibuster?
Don't worry about it. That's what you did tonight.
That's when you just talk and don't really say anything to divert to.
Sorry, Shane. That's what it sounded like.
That's just a joke, son. Wow. Well, I
You're
can say
big
that the
enough, man.
finance committee, although we don't really have anything to report, we did get the audit in, and everything seems to be 5 by 5, as we said in the audit. So
We had a couple of findings, but it sounds like we got resolutions.
yes, you always have a few findings. Yes, sir.
Come on in.
Oh, hey,
Come on up.
I am.
okay.
Don't forget to state who you are.
I'm the
Address.
finance committee.
Thank you. I'm Doug LeMailey, 25205 Herman Hutchinson Road, Holden. I applied. I don't see myself on the agenda, even though I was told today would be the day it would get discussed. But I applied for gas to my household to power my generator. It's hurricane season. I had my generator installed on the time that I thought I was going to get gas. I have no gas. I was told that due to the distance from the main to my house, it would have to go in front of the council. So
I don't know anything about this.
I was told to be here today.
What kind of gas is it? What-
Natural gas.
Yeah, what agency? City of Livingston?
No, it's probably Atmos or
No,
Where you live at?
Holden.
Holden?
oh, that's Livingston Parish Gas. But
You don't have
I haven't looked into this at all.
That would've had to
I don't
go
remember
to
communicating
utility.
with you at all. Who
The
told
town of
you?
Livingston Council?
No,
Okay,
because
have
I was
you
given
used the
this
same line
this
as
date,
us?
the 25th, at this time at 6:30
Who
p.m.
gave you that?
My wife talked to. It was a.
Lydia Atmos said that her boss would present it in front of the council.
I
Oh,
bet
so
it was the
Atmos
city council.
City
Energy,
of Livingston
Well,
City.
Livingston kicked us to Atmos, and so Atmos is in charge of our line, apparently.
Okay.
And this is all factored.
I think we need to get your address
Okay.
and.
His phone number.
I know what
find
the
out
problem
exactly-
is. It's the distance, it's the distance from the main to our house. I want to say it's probably about 800 feet. And I get that. And I understand that there's additional capital expenditure, return on investment, things like that. But, you know, we're ready to absorb some cost if need be because we need gas. You know, it's
They
not
may
just
put
for
your
a
meter out
generator.
by the
but-
road, and you may be responsible for running it from the gas meter to your house. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, see, we
Let the
don't
wait
deal
see.
with that. I don't know why they would send that. We ain't never dealt with
I
that.
think it's the wrong.
I think it is.
Or,
I think
or
it
a generator is, it's gotta be right by the generator.
Yeah, it's gotta be close.
Oh, really?
That's so many
If
feet.
you don't put it right by the generator, you're gonna.
But you're gonna have to pay, my brother-in-law runs for Oklahoma Gas, and if I'm not mistaken, you have to pay from the main to put the meter by your house, and they'll hook up then.
Well, right,
Okay.
so we've had no discussion on what the investment would look like, or if
That's
we would
really
have to
between you and
absorb.
Atmos,
Yeah,
though.
but I'm
Council does it.
obviously,
But that's-
obviously it was put on the
The town
Livingston.
of Livingston.
I called Atmos, Atmos directed me towards Livingston Parish, I called the number,
Yeah,
Here
I
I
think you should be with. the
Lauren
town.
just
Lauren
got
get
your
the
wife's
information from y'all,
address.
yeah. And
We're gonna-
she'll get to it on Monday and
We'll
give
look
them
at
a
this
call and find it
Monday
out.
and respond with some accurate information.
So
Yeah.
that you can get,
Thank you.
get your gas hooked up.
yeah,
You
I
caught us off
appreciate
guard
that.
walking up here. I don't think anybody knew anything about it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, like I said.
No, it's
just
okay.
because-
No, I'm happy you came.
And, do I need to give my number or email?
She got it.
See her back
Right
there?
behind you, getting it right now.
Okay, great.
Done.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys.
Take
Thank
care of
you.
yourself. Okay, close the book. All right, we're done with finance, committee and ordinance committee comments. Is there any councilman comments?
Yeah, let's give
Yeah,
a
we
taco.
got a little bit on the river cleanup coming up on,
Yeah.
I think
August 10th.
And, they're gonna be they have one site at Fred's, they'll have dumpsters there. They'll have dumpsters at, I think, either Hilltop or the Virgin Canal.
What?
And,
I know
Canal
Livingston
Bank
Parish
and at
CCA
Black Lake.
is sending a group out from Livingston Parish CCA, so if you're a member of Livingston Parish CCA, you can call the chairman and, he'll direct you where they're gonna put in.
Yeah, I know Mr. Ronnie Bro with Ascension. You call me and I can get you in touch with them, you know, who to get lined up with. It's a lady in the parish, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. It's not wrote down here.
Well,
Yeah.
our next meeting is the 8th,
Yeah.
so maybe we can get all of that
We'll
before
have
then.
we'll have it for that meeting.
Oh, yeah, we
And
sure,
we can-
yeah.
That's a day, that's Scooter's actually gonna have her name here.
Well, I got it somewhere.
Yeah. But I wasn't
Okay,
very good at
so we'll get that, and we'll
it.
talk about that on the 8th again. Is there
I
anything
need
else?
to make a motion.
There's a motion
To adjourn this
to
meeting.
adjourn this meeting.
second.
Y'all sure y'all don't wanna go another hour?
I think
We have a
Mr.
second by
Chris
Jeff
wants to stay.
Ard.
Do you remember that?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Are we sure there's no opposed?
Yeah, that's some opposers. I oppose having to be here till 8.
Jeff